Hello everyone. Hi, can you all see me? Just a second. Okay, one person is there. Just a second, I'm trying to. Hi, hello everyone. So today I am going to be teaching this tag card here. Hello Rekha, hi Sunita, thank you for joining. So this is the tag card that I'm going to teach today, and it's been made using this Capri collection here. This is one of the older collections by Prima, and I've paired it with some redesigned molds. I'll just show you. So this is the redesigned mold that I used. This one here. Okay, how many people have joined in? Just a second. So this here is actually a tag card, okay? And this is the front, and I've actually used pattern papers on all of the sides, and here's the back. So we have 20 people online. It's actually a Saturday, and I am not expecting many people today. I know it's Saturday, and so yeah, but still, let's get started with this in a couple of minutes. Let me see, there are 24 people online, and Nathamal will be modding for us today, so just say a hi to her. Hello Arlene, thank you for joining. Hi Dahlia. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so let's get started with this because it's already 1. So I'll just cover a few basics. So here is the tags here are the tags that I use. These are the Frank Garcia memory hardware tags, okay? And yeah, they are like really thick chipboard tags, if you can see, and they're pretty good size as well. And so what I am going to be doing today is just so you know, these tags actually have adhesive backing. Just a second, see here. Okay, so I'm going to use 2 of these. Now, what do we need to make it in the form of a card? First of all, I cut out these 4 papers from, these 4 die cut shapes from this collection here, okay? And you can totally use any pattern papers or anything, but what I had in mind was I wanted to use a little bit of blue and pink. So what I did was I used this pattern paper here, okay? And it's can you see how gorgeous the textures are already on this page here? So what I did was I cut out some shapes, these these tag shapes, like so. Just place your tag on the pattern paper, okay? And I used an X-Acto knife. You can always trace the shape and cut it with scissors as you wish. So I used an X-Acto knife, and then so here we have like 4 of the exact same shape, the same size, and 2 that are slightly smaller. See, slightly smaller. So this is going to go, just a second, I'll arrange it for you and show. So I'm going to layer, my first page is going to be this. The inside of it is going to be this, because I really liked how this one is, you know, along the border. And now this is my third page, and it's going to be like this. This is where your message can go, okay? And the fourth one, the last, is going to be this here, okay? So that we have a little bit of blue on both the front and the back, and they look like coordinated, okay? So this is the whole pattern paper thing. Okay, now next is making the hinge for our card. So just some leftover from this paper, and what I'm going to do is simply just make sure that my hinge is just you know, the length is just as much as the length of the hinge is equal to that of the tag. I just snipped off the extra, and there we go. Okay, so this is just as much we need. Okay, and now what we need to do is just score in the here. Now because it's a card, we do not need to add a lot of embellishments inside, or rarely anything. So what I'm going to do is this score line that I'm going to the score line is just about 1/16 or even less than that. Okay, here, just fold along the score lines. Okay, so our hinge is also ready. Now what do we have to do? Okay, so now let's just start adhering everything, and then we are going to work on the front of our card. I just want to get, you know, finished with all of this. So ideally you should be using some glue that has a lot of strength, and I like to use this gel, tacky gel. Now what I want to do is I'll just take a damp brush here, dip it inside, okay, remove the backing. Okay, I don't need it here. Now why am I using this glue with a brush? It's because when you use it with a brush and you know, apply it like this, you do not have any bubbles. You know, the pattern paper and the base will adhere like perfectly, and there won't be any bubbles. So that's that, and let us just, this is the first page, okay. Here, and one thing that you can also do here is, I just forgot, first of all, this is my palette of the day. Just take out some white paint, and you can always go over your edges, you know, because this is okay, and because these will show, I mean, so you can always go over these edges with some white paint just to give it a finished look. No need to be very super careful with it, okay? That's it. And here is my second one. Do the same with it. now that we have this done, okay, here's the second page, and I want this to be my back. So let me just, yeah. Although this is like adhesive bag, but I like to go over with some gel, because you know all of these all sorts of adhesives are temperature sensitive, so if it will affect if you are in a very cold or humid place. So that's that. Now to just to let you know, I used white chalk paint on these edges and not white gesso, because chalk paint is a little, you know, watery in consistency, unlike chalk paint, gesso, so it's easier to apply, especially in such areas. Even you can also use acrylic paints. Okay, so this is the front, and now our second layer for the front is this, and here are the insides. Now what I'll do is I'll adhere my hinge first. Okay, before I adhere any papers or anything, I'm going to adhere my hinge first. So let's just apply some glue here and some glue over here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just make it a little shorter and cut out a triangle from this end, just so that it does not show. Okay, now just make sure that your score line is just even a tad, you know, above the chipboard, just like so. Can you see that? Now, just make sure it's perfectly stuck. Use your scoring tool, and now apply the adhesive, whichever one you're using. Don't use hot glue here, of course. I know everyone knows that, but still, just in case. And just make sure your all of these edges are, you know, covered in adhesive. That is where you will face the problem of your pattern paper lifting up or anything. The centers, even if they are not that well covered, it's okay, but the sides, you should just go over the sides twice if need be. Okay, so here we go. On the inside, I wanted this. Okay, so I'll just carefully place it here, line it up with the edge of the cardboard tag, and here. Now if you see, I haven't distressed sorry, this as yet, but that is okay. You can always do it later. I mean, it is ideal to do it before adhering the paper, because it's easier. But if you forget it like me, you don't have to worry. So now I'm taking a little bit of distress oxide ink here. This is in Vintage Photo, and I'm lightly going to distress all of these edges so that it all comes together and looks unified. Okay, go. And now the outsides. You can go as heavy or as light-handed with distressing. It's completely up to you. Now, because this is like the Capri collection and it has all those beachy vibes and everything, so you can easily go with a little heavy distressing, because you know it'll give you those sand kind of feeling, right? And okay, here we go. And just so you know, when you're making if you're watching this live right now, I'll just tell you something easy, so that with just one tutorial you can actually make like literally any card or tag for any occasion. I'm a little lost today, please. I apologize for, yeah, I'm a little, okay. So here is our front and this is the inside. Okay, so this I'll just adhere right now. And for this I'm just using a normal tape runner. Once again, I forgot to distress the edges. Just make sure, if you have distressed one of the layers, just make sure you're distressing all of them, because if you keep on repeating one single step everywhere, you will end up with a very unified kind of project, something that's, you know, tied up together. But if you like do something like, if I distress on the front, I do not distress in the inside pages, or in one of the layers I'm distressing and the others I'm forgetting, so your project may not look like very tied up. So just make sure that you are kind of repeating the steps everywhere. Okay, and this part here, once again, just simply going to take my scissors and lightly distress the edges, because when you actually distress using scissors or some tools and then use your distressing ink, the distress oxide ink, what happens is that your paper will pick up the ink way better than it normally does. Okay, and there we go. I'm just going on the corners, a little heavy on the corners. Okay, so there we have. This is the base of our card. It's ready. Just let me clear a few things here. Yes. Now what do we need to do is I have to work on this base here. So how do we do that? First of all, because this is a pattern paper and I'm going to be using a little bit of watercolor and some paste, so I need to coat this with some protective layer, and that is going to be the clear gesso, the clear transparent gesso. Now this gesso dries transparent, so excuse me. Just use it with a brush. Now one thing to remember is, if you have a damp brush, okay, and you are using gesso, and the ink that you have used here is not permanent, or if it's something that is permanent only after heat drying, and you go over with this clear gesso on your distressed edges and then go into the center of the pattern paper, what happens is that it will reactivate this ink and spread it on your pattern paper. So because I've not heat dried anything yet, and to be true, I do not know if distress oxide inks are permanent or not, I am avoiding the edges, okay, because I do not want my whole pattern paper to be all covered with vintage photo ink. So that's something you need to keep in mind. Now let's dry this. Okay, let me go over. Hello Prerna. Hi Claudia. Prima papers are awesome. Absolutely. Neena Chaudhary, Aurora. Hello. Hi Anu. Hello Soraya. Nadia. Thank you so much everyone. Helen. Hello. Sylvia. Hi. Cecilia. Hello. Anshu. Melinda. Thank you. Thank you Jacqueline. Thank you so much everyone for joining me today. I was very apprehensive if anyone could join me because it's a Saturday and most of the people are like busy with families today. So here we go with the next step. Now first I've protected my pattern paper with some clear gesso. That is a must. You should always go ahead with that, because even if you are not using any kind of paints or anything, it is always a better idea to protect your base with something. Now the next thing is giving some flat textures, and those flat textures or those flat details are these inks and stamps. So I am using this one very old stamp I have. It's a rubber stamp, script stamp, nothing special. So let's use this. Just let me see which is the front. Okay, and this is our Color Philosophy ink in black. Very lightly just ink your pad lightly, not do not pick up a lot of ink on it, because if you do, there are chances that you will transfer it on your tag, and the chances of messing up with a lot of ink are very easy, very high. So always pick up a very small amount of ink, and if you feel that you have a lot of ink on your stamp, just stamp the extra on some paper here and there and lightly keep stamping. Now I love script stamps simply because they add a lot of detail to your work. Just have a look here, right? And slightly just stamp here and there. Now because I've stamped on our page here, I am going to repeat the same step inside as well, because otherwise there is a very high possibility that I may lose my stamp or ink somewhere and I won't be able to find it. So let's just stamp it on the insides as well. Now just as I told you, whatever you are going to do on the outside, keep in mind, do a little bit of it on the inside as well, just so that everything looks tied up. Okay? So there we go. It's very random. I make sure that I cover the edges a little bit. On each page you'll see me that I have stamped on the edges. Okay, where's this page? I'm so sorry. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'm done with the stamping part. I can remove this. Okay, now the next step is adding our three-dimensional textures. Now the three-dimensional textures, you can use pastes like crackle pastes, or which you can obviously just use it with a palette knife, or you can use stencils with some paste. So today I'm going to use this finibel stencil, the honeycomb stencil, and I am going to use it with our new ice paste this year. Okay, and it dries clear with small tiny beads, but I am not going to use it like I'm going to mix it with some paint today. So let's take a little bit of this on our palette here and mix it with that white paint that I had. Yeah, there we go. Always remember to close the lids very tightly. I like to use these packaging things as my palettes because they work great. They have this thing, the plastic on top of them, so you can always use these, or you can just like something like this, something that has been covered in a lot of acrylic paint will also act as a palette. You don't need to buy palettes specifically. Okay, now here I am going to just lightly apply this. Now before applying your textures, it is a very good idea to have a basic understanding of where you want your cluster to be, okay, so that you are not unnecessarily wasting your mediums, firstly, and secondly, because mediums take a lot of time to dry, okay, and you do not want them on areas that you have to hide, because it takes a lot of time to dry and then it all becomes messy. So just avoid the areas you want your cluster to be. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to take a little bit of this and smudge it on the edges so that it's not very, neat and clean. Like this. Okay. Now this paste has a few crystal sort of things in it. It's a little gritty, so remember to wipe your stencils and palette knives, after using, because you may end up spoiling them. Although it comes off with a little bit of effort, it will come off, but yeah, why waste an extra hour doing something that you could always do in a minute, right? Now let's just dry this. Thank you, Helene. I'm so glad. Yes, actually this is this ice paste has some very, oops, just a second, I'll just show you. Can you see it has some sparkly elements in it? I'm not sure if the camera is picking it up. It has some very silver sparkles and lots of tiny crystals inside. So it gives a very cool effect when you are actually using it without any paints mixed in it. I of course have used some of this white paint here just because I wanted it to like show a little bit more. And it dries fast, so in the meantime it's drying, I'm going to show you. I hope I'm audible. Can someone tell me if the heat gun is working, heat tool is working? Am I audible? Okay, anyways, so here are the resin casts from this mold. I'll just leave it here. Here are the resin casts from this mold, and I have used this amazing casting resin, and it dries white in 10 minutes. So this is always a very good option. You can always use paper clay, but I have not had a lot of success with paper clay. My casts tend to break a lot, so I'm not sure, it's maybe I'm using the wrong sort of clay maybe. And these this is a silicone mold, so your resin will come right off. It's not a problem cleaning it, so you can always go ahead and use resins. Now the thing with resins is, as one of our design team members said, that resins have a very plasticky look. Okay, Malika said that. Yeah, they have a very plasticky look, and yes, they are they do not look like very they don't give that handmade sort of impression. So what we are going to do is cover these resin pieces with a little bit of white chalk paint. Okay, because with chalk paint you will get that nice Prima like look. You remember those resins that Prima used to have in the early days? I'm sure I have a few here and there. I'll just show them. So those resins were like really amazing. They had this amazing resin, nice resin feel to them, and nice stone like feel to them actually. Just a second, I'll show you one. Here I have this. So you see how gorgeous these look, and when you compare these two, these look like really plasticky, right? So just go over your resin pieces with some chalk paint. Okay, I think I'll use a brush here, and like this. Okay, I am using the Waverly Inspiration, I think. Yeah, this is the chalk paint that I'm using. You can use gesso as well, but I like the chalk paint better for this purpose, because once again, because it has a thin consistency. Okay, and this is the next piece that I'm going to use. So I'll just cover this. In the meanwhile that is drying, we just need to finish a little bit of work on our embellishment. So that is why I've left that to dry a little by itself, so that we can work on preparing our embellishments here. Okay, there we go. Now I'll just remove these and try, and I'll show you in just a little bit. Okay, so anyone who's joining now, this is what we are creating. This is a tag card made using the Prima Capri collection, this here. And thank you so much for joining. Oh no, Dalia, they are, hi, hello Liz. Hot glue, okay with all Prima? Yes, of course. All hot glue works perfectly with Prima molds. And if you do not want to buy resin, these what do we say? These sort of things, or you can always use hot glue for preparing your in your molds, in your Prima molds. Okay. So there we go. We have these ready, and just so you know, when you heat resin, even resin that has cured completely, if you heat it with a heat tool, what happens is that it becomes a little bit, you know, you can shape it as you want. So you can just hold it as you want and let it be like that, and it'll actually when it'll cool down, it'll hold its shape. So you can see I did that to our resin piece here. Just a little bit of info if you want. Okay, there we have it. Now let's okay, I'm not lost, a little bit lost, I'm sorry. I'm just going to slightly, you know, add a little bit of black on these edges. Don't be very heavy-handed. We just want it to mimic our old Prima resin pieces. Okay, now the other way of doing it was cover it with black gesso first, watered down black gesso, dry it, then add this chalk paint, and then sand off a little. I do not have a sandpaper with me, so I chose to go with this method. Okay, now what do we need to do is add some chipboard on this pattern paper here. And just a second. I have a lot of things on my desk right now, so just get rid of a few things here. Okay, so I have this chipboard, and what we need to do is just see how much you need, and there you go. Okay, I'll just make sure it is a little bit shorter on all the sides. Why do we need to do this is because if you put like pieces of chipboard on the back here, sometimes what in tags, especially in tags, I have seen that your paper tends to be have those, you know, crests and roughs and ripples and everything. So I don't like that look. I like when it looks little sturdy. So that is why I am just going to use this whole chipboard like this. Color the edges of this as well, and there we go. Okay, now let me catch up with the comments. Hi Shannon, thank you for joining. I'm not very good with these things. That is why I usually avoid using things like these. Okay. Now our paste is actually dry, so I'm just going to, just a second. There we go. Let's just leave it like this, and now we are going to adhere our base. I do realize that we are like 40 minutes into the live, so I have to hurry a little because I'm pretty sure it's I know you all have a lot of work and other things, so I don't want to waste a lot of your time, so I'm just going to hurry. Okay, so now what I need to do is I want to blend this the stenciling. Okay, so what we'll do is just simply add a little bit of white paint, and just like you would distress, okay, use the distressing ink exactly in the same way. Now you can always do this part later on as well, after you've finished everything. It's up to you. And doing this will give your tag a little softer feel as well. I hope I'm making a little bit of sense. So there we go. You feel that. Okay, next in line is using some of our embellishments. So I have actually used some shells in here. Now we'll start assembling our embellishments now. So here are a couple of shells that I'm going to use. Okay, and these shells I am going to layer with some die cuts. Now these are some gear die cuts that I have simply die cut out using some thick cardstock, and the die I used was I think it was some old Tim Holtz die or something, but you can use any gear dies or even chipboards if you have them. And what you have to do is just use some versamark ink, okay, and transfer some sticky versamark ink on your dies or your chipboards and emboss them using any embossing powder. So I'll just take a few of these out and let's start adhering our embellishments. And all of the color that we are going to throw in on our tag is after we have completely assembled everything. Okay, because then we will have a better idea of where we actually want the color to go. So this area is going to have a lot of my embellishments, so this is how I'm going to assemble. And I want it to be like this, so I may have to cut this resin. That was easy. Okay, and oops, there was a little bit of hot glue. Just be very careful with hot glue because I burn myself like 10 times a day maybe if I'm crafting. So there we go, a little bit here. Okay, and now I will start layering with my die cuts and my prima flowers. Yes, I'm addicted to flowers and molds as well, Liz. Hello Malika, thank you for joining. So here are the flowers that I'm going to use. These are the Capri collection flowers. Okay, and Akmal is going to give you the links to all the products that I am using today. Okay. So for centerpiece, I need a bigger die cut, and this is the largest that I have. I am just going to throw in this, what is this called? Brad, yeah, this brad that has this, what is this, something, I think it's called, sorry, I'm totally I totally forgot. Okay, so now I am just going to so now what I'm just going to do is adhere this over here. Am I live, you guys? Yes, I am. Okay, like so. Okay, now our tag is coming along, so you just have to be patient with me for a few more minutes. And I am going to use the pink flowers here. Let me take out all of these. Then pick up the pink ones, remove the rest of them. I am all over the place today. Okay, and I'll take the pink ones out from here as well. Now I just wanted to have this blue and pink theme going on here. So I am using only the pink flowers, but it is totally up to you. You can use the pink or whatever color flowers you want. Okay. So there we go. These are the flowers. And a few of these flowers as well. These are the tiny prima flowers. So we're going to use those as well. And now I just want to create a kind of a cluster of flowers and gears. Okay, so let's start doing that. Something like this. Here, one here. I'm adhering the flowers first, and then I'll stick in the gears in between. So just lift this up a little, and yeah, this thing is okay. I'm just making the flow a little, you know, I'm so lost today, I'm so sorry. I'm just removing the centers of a few flowers because they are like, I will have problems if I try to adjust them just as they are. And now using a few darker shades in between, just so that we have a little bit of, you know, depth going on there. Yeah, my favorite color, pink, yes. It's a beautiful color. And maybe something like this. There we go. Okay, now let's use these gears in between. Now I was saying, suppose you want to make a Christmas card, okay, and you just saw this tutorial and you like it, but you're thinking, okay, how can I just, you know, make a Christmas card, something with some similar things. So what you can do is you can simply replace the elements, okay. So instead of gears you could use stars, okay, and instead of this you can always use some small wreath, the sisal wreath that Prima bought in, I think, last year. Those would be gorgeous as the centerpieces, right? So you can always mix and match a few elements. It's just about the elements, people, because sometimes we are so overwhelmed with finding new designs and everything. You can always just stick to one thing. If you are a beginner, you can always stick to one sort of design and keep on, you know, practicing with it. There is no harm in doing something like this. Just fluff up your flowers a little. You may need to lift these shells just so that your I hope you can see me. There's not a lot of shadows going on there. Okay, there we go. And it'll all come together, even if it's not looking like right now. Trust me, it will. And a little bit over here, and over here. Now I've used this dark shade here, so I am just going to balance that dark pink somewhere here. Okay. There we go. And this is our this looks nice, right? Let's go with this. Just be very careful while using hot glue, when using hot glue. I think I repeat this like 10 times in my life. Okay, and just fold your flowers. If you want the centers to show, what you can do is just fold it like this and then tuck it in place. You know, that gold peeping off is like so beautiful. I did not want to hide it, so I'm just going to do this and this. I'm not sure if you all can see me because the light is coming from the front. Okay, there we go. Now I think I need one flower over here to cover this gap in this rope resin piece. So there we go. One small gear over here just to give it a look as if it's kind of, you know, fading on the ends. The cluster is ending on the ends, right? And this piece, I removed the center, so I'm just going to attach one here. There we go. And let me see if I want to add a few more gears. I can add one here under this, right? Let's add one. There we go. So most of our assembling these flowers and things is done. Now what we need to do next is adding some color. Okay, and for that I am going to use these Pastel Dreams watercolor confections by Prima. And if you just have these, I think it's more than enough for this tag. So now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of color on all of these resin pieces over here, and then dry it. Just make sure you're not adding you know, by mistake adding color on your flowers, because because these flowers have not been covered in anything, gesso or anything, so you may end up, you know, if you by default add a lot of color, you may end up spoiling your flowers. If you of course add a little bit of gesso, the clear gesso, and then color your flowers, it will work perfectly. So now, as of now, I'm just going to add these colors and a little bit of depth on the shell with some darker browns. Just give me a second. Yeah, there we go. And okay, I want a different shade of brown, so I'm using the Classics palette as well. That is it. Let's dry it. My favorite watercolor confection set from Prima is the Pastel Dreams, and I love it. I have literally used like 2 pans, and this is like my third pan of Pastel Dreams. It's one of the most gorgeous you know, colors you can get in one single pan. If you can get all of your possible pastel colors, then this is the pan to go for sure. I cannot recommend anything more than this thing here. So now we have colored the embellishments, and just stay with me a little bit more because yeah, I know this is getting a little long, but still. Okay, so now what we need to do is add more whites into this, just so that everything comes together, everything gets tied up. Okay, so for that, once again, use any white paint that you have, or white gesso, anything will work. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is taking a sponge, just lightly going over the raised areas of these things, and instantly everything will start to come to life. Okay, and now I am going to dab a little bit of this white on my flowers as well. I like to use a brush instead of a I like to use a sponge instead of a brush when gessoing my flowers, especially because I think it helps me get a better control of where I want and how much of white I want on my flowers, you know. Now let's give it a quick dry once again. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I want a little bit of color to come from the underneath of this cluster so that this cluster gets a little bit of depth. So for that I am going to use once again this pan and some of this gorgeous pink color here. Now this is a little brighter pink, but we have a few of these flowers that are a little bright, so I'm just going to add in a little bit of pink here and blend it with lots of water. Okay, like this. Now some of this lighter pastel pink, once again blend it with lots of water. And you just have to make sure that you start from the underneath of these flowers. Now I'm going to use a little bit of brown just so that everything ties up. Once again, and if you have used a clear gesso or white gesso on your these pattern papers, you do not have to worry about using watercolors. Okay, so that is the main reason why you should always cover your bases with some sort of protective agent, just because you never know what you will want at the end of the day, right? You may not like it just without any mediums, and then you think that okay, I want to throw in some colors here, and then you cannot because you have not added gesso. It is always a good idea to add. Now I'm going to push in a little bit underneath here, right? Now this is why I was not adding color initially on my tag, because I wasn't sure where I would want it. You can always add it beforehand if you're very sure, but this is a better way to do it, because then you can be sure that you're not adding a lot and doing unnecessary hard work, you know. So that's it. Now what do we need is adding our title and some details with art stones. So here I have the normal sized art stones and some of these mini art stones, and we will be coming in stock again soon, hopefully, with these. These are like one of the most popular finibel ingredients right now. And once again I am taking some of my gel here, taking some of these art stones and just slightly add it into the these crannies, the nooks and crannies and areas like the corners and everything. Okay. Add it on your flowers. Just fill up these small spaces that you see here on your art pieces. Whatever you are creating, if you see wherever your cluster is, just look at those areas where that are like hidden and everything, you know, and fill those up with some art stones. They will add a lot of detail to your project. So areas like these that are normally not visible, that you know you wouldn't really care about, just fill those areas with art stones. And because this is like a beach kind of thing project, stones go very well with this. If suppose you were creating say a Christmas tag with this, Christmas card with the same design, you can always go in, as I told you, with a Cecil Christmas tree that we had in the last collection. You can replace these gears with some stars, and instead of using these art stones, you can use those micro beads by Finibel, right? And it will totally transform your creation from this simple mixed media beach themed tag or card to a Christmas themed card. I think that is more than enough. Yeah. And just to give it a little bit of more beachy vibe, what I have done in my original piece here is I've used this Cecil thing. This you can get at any flower shop or gift wrapping shop, I'm pretty sure. And just tuck this in somewhere. Okay, like this. Now one thing that I noticed over here is that I have added some pink on the flowers as well. So let me just do that. Now I think I have already told this to you. When you're adding paint on your flowers, take a wet brush, dip it in your color, do not oversaturate it. Now just go like this from the, you know, just from the center, just dab some paint on the center itself. And this, because it is paper, it will automatically pick up all that color, and you know all the petals will automatically, you know, have that ombre kind of look. You don't have to go over the petals like this. Just dab a wet paintbrush with some color on the center itself like this, and it will give your flowers a very natural, beautiful look. So once again I'm doing this. And this thing actually, it just brings your flowers to so much life, right? Take a wet brush, pick up some color and add it just in the center. Let it seep. If it's not seeping, you can always take a wet paintbrush with just plain water and use some water over here, and the color will once again flow up. Okay. That is it. And I think I'll just use some pink over here just so that it all looks more unified. There we go. Now at this point, if you feel that you have lost some of the stamping, you can always go back with your stamp and stamp a little. Like maybe if I think that I want a little bit of stamping to show, I can always go ahead and stamp. You can also stamp your embellishments like this. Okay. Now let's add a title, and the inside, as you can see here, I have used these die cuts. After I cut out those gears, I have simply placed these die cuts over here like so, and use these distress ink and lightly just added some ink like this, right? Okay. And you can also use your stencils for this purpose or anything. Now let's just add some title and finish off with our tag. Okay, I think this was a very long live, I'm sorry if it was, but here I have this title from the pack from Capri collection. Once again, just going to trim this down a little and distress the edges. Once again, don't forget to do this. And okay, just do it like this. Okay, there we go. I think our card is ready. I did add a little gear over here also as well, so if you want, you can do it. I think it looks nice, so I'll do it anyway. And that is it, guys. So once again, this is all done. Now for the inside, as you can see here, just remove all these things. For the inside, as you can see here, I have simply done some distress inking with some of this die cut that after cutting out my dies, I was left with these negatives. Okay, so I used these as stencils over here, and I just because I'm not going to use any gears or anything on the insides here, so I just tried to, you know, tie it up a little bit. And I also used the honeycomb stencil on the inside over here. You can see this, and on the back side, I'll just show you, it's the same thing, just two papers, two small papers and a few gears and a die cut butterfly, and our card was ready. Okay. And yes, of course, these, one thing that I did was, I'll just show it to you, because if I don't, I'll feel like I did not cover everything. Okay, so what I did was, after my stones have completely dried, these art stones, what I did was I took some dark brown ink from the Classics palette and lightly added that on my stones. Okay, so and once that watercolor is dry, you can always go ahead and once again brush some gesso, but that is not important. What this does is it makes these stones a little bit more visible. Okay, something like this, and dry it. Now finish off with last coat of this white paint. Now this is very important, because you may have like added colors or something over areas you do not want. So I mean, it's not very important, but I like to do this. Okay, This helps in just tying up my whole project together. So I think we are done. You can always add more flowers if you want, like just to finish off. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. Our tag is ready. And on this one, as you can see, I added more white. Once it was completely dry to touch, I went in and added a little bit of white again, because what happens is that if your colors aren't completely dry and you start to add more paint on it, it gets reactivated, the pigment gets reactivated, and you will not be able to do it even if you keep on piling up more and more white. So let it dry completely, and then if you want to give it the soft look, then you can go again with some white paint, white gesso, white acrylic paint, chalk paint, or whatever, and then add it with a sponge or something and keep on drying as you are adding. Okay, so that is the trick to actually make it look more soft. So there we have it. Our tag is ready, card is ready. I hope you like it. Thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you, Monique. Hi. Thank you everyone. I hope you like it. See you again. Bye bye. Thank you for joining.